place values and powers of 10, okay? Now, obviously you see the chart that is in your book, okay? Obviously you do not need to copy this down into your notes, okay? I just wanted it here because I want to write on it and do some stuff. That's the good thing about my little computer here. I can take and I can do this right here all over my book. You know, just sort of, woo, yeah. Then I just do that right there and it's gone, okay? So I like being able to write on the page so I can show you things and not have to worry about running a book, okay? So powers of 10 is what we're really going to focus on this little bit of time left we have here at the end of class. All right, what we have here is, first one there is what? How would I say that? Somebody tell me, how do I say that number that I've circled there? Judah? Huh? 10/4? No. It's a good guess, but no, that's not it. Lily? Yes, 10 to the 4th power or 10 to the 4th. Okay? 10/4 would be like a fraction 10 over 4 when you say it like that. Okay? So that's 10 to the 4th power. Okay? Now, I want you to look at something. I want you to look at that right there. Here, back up. Shut down. Sometimes when I push little buttons down there at the bottom of my page, they actually come on. Okay? Look at this right here. That number, 10,000. Okay? How many zeros does 10,000 have? Gabby? 4. Okay? What is my exponent on my 10? Tayshawn? What is this exponent right there? 4. So there's 4 zeros and a 4 exponent. Okay? So let's look at this. There's a 3 exponent. How many zeros are in 1,000? Cameron? 3. Okay, are you recognizing the pattern? Okay? There's 10 to the 3rd, 3 zeros, 1,000. 10 to the 2nd. How many zeros does 10 to the 2nd have in our place value there, our standard form? Nikki? How many does this one have? 2, and there's 2 exponent, okay? So, when I have a number such as this, 10 to the 9th power. When I have 10 to the 9th power, that's going to be a 1 with nine zeros after it. Okay? That's what 10 to the 9th power is. Okay? 1 what? 1 what? 1 billionth. Okay? Now, I'm going to flash back to our notes from the other day. The reason I'm going to flash back is because I want to get to this chart again. Okay? That chart right there. Okay? Now, what we're talking about today is this. The 1's place value is 10 to the 1. No, not 1's because there's no zeros there. That's 10 to the 0 power. Okay? This is 10 to the 1st, 10 to the 2nd, 10 to the 3rd, 10 to the 4th. All these powers, okay, are represented right there. Okay? So, as I look at this then, there's our place values that are whole numbers, which is what this says right here. The exponents that are positive for numbers greater, the exponents are positive for the numbers that are greater than 1 and negative for the numbers less than 1. The exponent for 1 is 0. Okay? So, if I go back to my table, so if this is 10 to the 0, I can't go here and have another positive number. So when I go there, it's 10 to the negative 1st power. Then 10 to the negative 2nd power. Then 10 to the negative 3rd, 10 to the negative 4th, 10 to the negative 5th, 10 to the negative 6th. Okay? So there's all our place values with their power of 10 on the chart. Lily Darling. 10 to the negative 1, how do you do it in standard form? Okay, that's what I'm fixing to show you. Let's go back to this chart. All right. Here's standard form. Okay, here's all our ones that we sort of know. Okay, the 10,000, 1,000, 100, 10, and 1. Now, if we look at 10 to the negative first power, 10 to the negative first power is written as a fraction as 1 over 10. Okay, so I had a 1 here, I have 1 0 here. Okay, let's look at the next one. 10 to the second, I have 2 zeros. Okay, now, here's the difference though. Let's look at our decimal. Okay, here, not carpet. All right, let's look at this. 10 to the negative first power doesn't have any zeros in it besides the one over here, and that's always there. Okay, it has just a 1. Why isn't that 0.01? If 10 to the first has a 0 right there, then how come this doesn't have a 0 in front of the 1? How come it's not 0.01? How come it's not 0.01? Anybody know? Or take a guess? A guess is good here. Heck, what do you think? No, that's a good guess, but no, it's not because it's negative. Because see down here, I have 10 to the negative second, and there is a 0 there. Okay? So it's not because it's negative. That's a good guess, though. Gabby? Sorta, yeah, you're closer. That's closer to what I'm looking for. Judah? Because why? But why is that different than the other one? Okay. Yeah, you're sort of there, but not there. Stretch man? Huh? No. Y'all are getting further away. You were getting closer, but now you're getting further away. Lily Darling. But why do I not have a 0? My question is this. When I had 10 to the first, I've got a 0, right? When I had 10 to the second, I have 2 zeros. But when I get down here, 10 to the negative first doesn't have a 0. Okay? And here's why. Go back to the other day's lessons. Here, we start with tenths. On this side, we start with ones. Okay? So we skip, there isn't a once. There isn't an O-N-E-T-H-S. Okay? So you can't go back there and say, hey, we don't have this place value, but we're going to go ahead and treat it like we do. Okay? So that's why you don't have a 0 in that 10 to the negative first power. Okay? That's why that 10 to the negative first is equal to 0.1. Okay? Because the first place value for decimals is the tenths. Okay? So those of you right now that are just staring at the screen, you're supposed to be writing that down because I just wrote it down. You don't have to write the table down. Okay? You don't have to write that stuff on the table. But remember, anything I write down, you need to write it down. Okay? 10 to the negative first is equal to 0.1 because the first place value for decimals is the tenths. We skip the ones because there aren't any. Okay? Yes, that is 0.1. Okay? So, next thing we need to talk about. Expanded form with exponents and exponential form. Okay? Expanded form with exponents is exactly the same thing as exponential form. Your book will call it expanded form with exponents. Okay? Most of the books that you're going to have from now on are going to call it exponential form. Okay? That's the way they say it. They don't. Right now, your book, when it gives you directions, they're going to say, write the number in expanded form with exponents. Okay? In the 7th grade book, they're going to say, write it in exponential form. Okay? Which means it has exponents. Okay? So, it's just a play on words type of deal where they shorten things down as you get older. Okay? Because exponential form is going to have several meanings when you get into algebra, okay, which is, 2 to 3 years away, depending. All right, now, let's look at writing in expanded form with exponents. These numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4, are right out of your book, okay? They tell us to write the number in expanded form with exponents, okay? Well, the other day, you would have wrote this. Whoops. Sorry. Erase that. The other day, when we did our homework last night, that's how you would have wrote that number in expanded form. Okay? We're going to do something similar, but with exponents now. Let's look at, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. So that means the power of 10 that represents that number has what as an exponent? In other words, I put a 10 right here. What's the exponent going to be since I have 6 zeros? Huh? 10 to the 6th. Okay? So I'm going to take 2 and multiply it by 10 times, let me make it closer together. Don't let them disturb you. Okay? All right. So that's how you write it. That's how you write 2 million in expanded form with exponents. 2 times 10 to the 6th. Okay? Instead of just writing 2 million, in other words, if there were other digits here, let's say there was a 7 right here. Then yesterday you would wrote 2 million plus the 7 right here would have been 7,000. So you'd say 2 million plus 7,000, and that's how you wrote it in expanded form. Well, instead of writing it that way, we're going to write it 2 times 10 to the 6th. If there was a 7 there, if there was a 7 right there, you would say 2 times 10 to the 6th plus 7 times 10 to the 3rd because there's 3 zeros left. Okay? Now, let me do this. Let's look at this one. What place value is this 0 right here? What power of 10 is that 0? Okay, look back at your chart on the other page. What place value is that as far as your powers of 10? Nick? 10. But how do I write it as a power of 10? Brittany, help him out. What do you think? No, not behind the decimal. Remember, there's a decimal there. Cameron. It is 10. Nick. 10 to the negative 4? No, you're getting closer. Shania. No, you're on that side of the decimal. Trinity. Negative what? No, that's what Cameron just guessed. You're close. Miss McKeever. No, you are hitting all around it, Tayshawn. There you go. That place value is 10 to the negative first power. Okay? So then, what would the 3 place value be? If the first one's 10 to the negative first, what's the second one, Lily darling? Yes, 10 to the negative 2 power. Okay? Now, there is no homework for the holidays. You're lucky. I usually give homework. No homework. Hang on, sit down. We'll finish this up on Tuesday. Obviously, there's no school on Monday. You may go.